hear from me.
So the title of this message is called Ophanim, Four Winds, Chariots of God, Cherubim embedded, encoded within the cloud, within the wind. Now, if we look at the subject of the Ophanim, winds, so if we look at the subject of the wheels, this is the most understood aspect of the Ezekiel vision, is the wheels, also known as the Ophanim. The wheels in scripture are called whirling wheels, to be specific. But in the Hebrew, the meaning leans not just towards a whirling, turning object, but a whirling wind, which is a storm cloud, to be exact. It is this Ophanim, the wheels, that we see first in the vision of Ezekiel. We see a cloud. In scripture, this cloud is also called a storm cloud, in different translations, a tempest. This is a whirling wind. You cannot have a tempest or a storm cloud without whirling winds. So the Ophanim is the lowest level. Although the Ophanim is the lowest level of Ezekiel's vision, we see it first on the onset of Ezekiel's vision. So it says in scripture, the last shall be first, and it is the closest to the earth, touching the earth. However, the Ophanim, the whirling winds, is the first thing we see in the cherubic vision in Ezekiel. It is the first thing that we are exposed to, is that cloud, is that tempest, that whirling wind. It is that storm cloud. It is these winds, the storm cloud that surround the throne, that surround and envelop the cherubim. They are within the cherubim. More specifically, the mystery here is the cherubim, and everything encoded within Ezekiel's vision is embedded within the winds, the storm cloud. For the spirit of the cherubim is within the wheels. It says that in scripture. The spirit of the cherubim is within the winds, more specifically. So where you have the winds, you have the chariots. Where you have the winds, you have the cherubim. The vision of Zechariah speaks of the four winds of the earth and the four chariot horsemen as being synonymous. The four chariot horsemen, or the four winds of the earth. So when you have the four winds of the earth, you have the four chariot horsemen. And when you have the four chariot horsemen, you have the four winds. The cherubim are chariot thrones and whirling winds. These move synonymously. For example, when Elijah was taken up to heaven, we see chariots and horses of fire and a whirlwind. They are together. Elijah went up by the medium of a chariot and a whirlwind. They are synonymous. They work together because the chariot is the cherubim. The cherubim is the chariot. It's describing what this vehicle is. It's a chariot. The cherubim vehicle is a chariot. The horsemen are encoded within the wheels. They are encoded within the whirlwind. We have some scriptures here to extrapolate this more deeply, biblically. Psalms 104:3 says, "You lay out the beams of your chambers on the waters. He makes the clouds his chariot and rides on the wings of the wind." John 3:8 says, "The wind blows where it pleases." You hear its sound, but you cannot tell where it comes from or where it is going. So it is with everyone born of the Spirit. Psalm 77:18 says, "Your thunder was heard in the whirlwind. Your lightning lit up the world." Psalms 104:4 says, "He makes winds his messengers," speaking of angels, "and his servants flames of fire." The mystery here is twofold. There is a dimensional view to the cherubic Ophanic cloud, and there is a hierarchical view to the cherubic Ophanic cloud. There are winds that are present before they are visible. That doesn't mean that there isn't power and glory accessible within the invisible, within the intangible. The power and glory of the vehicle throne is lurking in the invisible, in the intangible, nestled within a hidden dimension yet to be found, yet to be assessed. As the cherubic vehicle throne and man sitting on the throne approaches closer in localized proximity, a glowing amber portal opens and the environment heaps up. Thus, the wind begins to increase in visibility and the cloud begins to grow. The cloud begins to intensify and becomes a whirling wind and a tempest as the atmosphere changes. Within the cloud, within the wind, you have the cherubim. For the spirit of the cherubim is within the wheels, within the wind. When you go deep in the deeper things of the cloud, the cherubim are unveiled. That is one dimension deep within the wind, within the cloud. The cherubim is a visual depiction and egregore of your celestial, spiritual, and terrestrial appendages to your temple. The head being is one with Christ, the head being you, one with Christ on the throne, and the body as being the latter of this celestial, spiritual, and terrestrial appendages to your heavenly and earthly body, extended between earth and heaven. So this encompasses archangels, principalities, powers, rulers, dominions, elements of wind, water, fire, and earth, of course, holy in nature. Depending on your life, determines the extent of your cherubic scope of abilities and powers. The cherubim are also interwoven in the firmament of your flesh, for they are interwoven and weaved into the veil and curtains of the temple and carved on the walls of the temple. They're interwoven into the firmament of the cosmos macroscopically and interwoven into the firmament of your flesh microscopically. Similarly, when you move deeper within the cherubim, the firmament or expanse above their heads are unveiled and is unveiled. This firmament over the cherubim's heads is a dimension in which you operate in, that you are presiding over on the throne. So if you are seated in heavenly places, you may have access to many firmaments and thus many dimensions and the powers that correspond with those dimensions therein. Now, as you move past the firmament, the throne and the man sitting on the throne is unveiled. This is the true cockpit of the vehicle throne, which is operating and commanding the apparatus of this vehicle. The dimension of the throne above the firmament is not only within the cloud, it is also vertically in the highest aspect of this cherubic vehicle. The Ophanim, or at the bottom, the first scene, the winds, and above the Ophanim or the cherubim, a vehicle and horizontal structure, macroscopic within the cosmos and microscopic within you in creation. And above the cherubim is a firmament. Every cherubim carries and is integrated within a firmament. They are encoded within the veil and curtain. Every cherubim comes with a dimensional firmament that it operates in and from. And above the firmament is the man sitting on the throne. That is the head of which the house of God is the latter in between heaven and earth, the cherubic tree of life. However, all of this is encoded and embedded within the wind. All of this is encoded within the cloud. Where you have the cloud, you have the entrance into dimensions. The wind carries these dimensions because the spirit of the cherubim are within the wheels, within the winds, and the winds follow where the cherubim go. The cherubim follow where the spirit goes, and the spirit is Christ on the throne. The transportation of Christ and the movement of Christ on the throne is via sapphire throne pavement, the sea of glass, the mystical textile, the heavenly carpet. This is a interactive map of the cosmos that is encoded on the sapphire stone pavement, sea of glass. So in closing, all within that is Ezekiel's vision of the cherubim, the firmament, the man sitting on the throne. All of that is embedded and coded within the wind, within the winds, the whirlwind, the cloud, within the Ophanim, all of that on that surface level. So don't despise the small things, though you're praying and calling off and looking for a cloud, looking for some significant change and looking for some visibility. Just at a mere instance of a wind, there is a lot encoded within that wind. that can develop into a tempest, a storm, wind, a cloud. It can develop into a dimensional throne, all within a wind. Hope if you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.